brought us some kudos. We had 2 teachers who participate in the Teaching American History grant were asked to present at the national, or not the national, but the annual conference in Reading. And Catherine Jones and Liz Kosterko presented at their grade level lessons that they had written last year as part of their grant work. So that was an accolade for us, as well as Matt Oosting from the high school faculty was named a James Madison Fellow, which is a prestigious fellowship, and he'll be going off and spending some time in Washington and pursuing his advanced degree. On the tech side, I need to say thank you to all of the generous donations from the parents out there. All of the school parent groups really came through with funds this year to not just help us with our basic needs, because we're doing a really good job of providing those for ourselves right now, but they're helping us get those extras and create those smart classrooms that we're so desperate to get every teacher one of. Things like smart boards and projectors have been key donations from those groups this year. One other thing is we do have the teacher websites, which we're beginning to expand slowly but surely, which allows teachers to post homework, information, have discussion groups and exchanges online with students. The middle school seems to be the largest group right now, and it looks like we have a few people signed up for our tech camp that we're going to be running at the end of the year to get some high school teachers on board.
Dan, will those websites have grades on them for the parents to keep track of the students' progress?
In order for us to post grades, we're going to have to invest in Edline, which is a component of the Redeker program that we currently own, which will have to pay a fee, which will allow us to set up usernames, accounts, and allow parents to have portal access to that. You would get there through your teacher page. They're not joined. Our SharePoint server is a free piece that we developed here. When you get a Microsoft server package, part of the software on there is something called SharePoint, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a place you can come and share common folders, common links, RSS feeds, discussion boards. So that's at no cost to the district. What we would have to buy is the module from Redeker. There is interest in getting that started. A couple of things of note that we tried to get going for students and families this year was the elementary schools were very successful in extending their after-school programs. It's nothing really that the curriculum department did, but I think it's something that's helping us extend our curriculum beyond the day. We tried to implement the summer enrichment program. I feel like we got out of the gate a little late on that, and people they were already planned for the summer, competing camps, music lessons, sports activities. So we will try that again next year, and I'm hoping the planning process for us can begin in November with almost a mini study of who would be interested, what types of courses would they be looking for, and then roll out registration in February, right after February vacation. So we have a good sense of going into the spring of what we're planning for and what we'll need for faculty. We're going to run some MCAS academies at the elementary school this year, and that builds off the after-school program that we started. We've identified some students who, based on data, would benefit from having some extra work in math or ELA. Those academies will be run by elementary teaching faculty here. So we're in the registration process for that right now. Another thing that's going right out into homes is we've used Hot Math at the middle school for several years now, and that's an online assistant. It matches up with the text or program that you use in mathematics, and through discussions with Barbara Lurvy, we're going to extend the use of that through the high school, so high school students will have access to it as well. It'll be most useful for algebra students, algebra 2 students, geometry students. Those are the highlights. We have a big week at the end of June in terms of training for teachers. We're going to do a phonemic awareness training for our primary teachers, K1, 2. We have over 20 people have signed up for that right now. And that's just another tool to add to their toolbox in terms of being able to assist and identify students who are struggling with the reading process so we can get them early intervention. We're running a mentor training in our class of new and teacher induction, but our mentor training aims to try and move the bar up on our mentor program. For a long time, North Reading brought in very few teachers per year, and the teachers we brought in tended to be veteran teachers. and we have a very youthful faculty. So we're getting a lot of kids, like I'm ancient. We're getting a lot of teachers who are coming in out of their programs, regardless of where they are in their lives. They're coming into their first teaching experience. So that means the program has to really change to address their needs. So the training we're offering in June focuses on peer coaching, which helps to build their capacity in the classroom. Not just make sure that they're comfortable in the building and know where things are, but really that we're helping them to develop their craft. And the other thing we're running is the Faculty Tech Camp. We set it up to run over two days with interchangeable modules, so people can sign up for learning how to podcast or use United Streaming, use SharePoint, the basic literacy tools that we have online, and mix and match 2-hour sections to create a full day for themselves. So we're excited about that. And hopefully we have some people going off under the Teaching American History grant to the Primary Source Summer Institute, which is a very prestigious organization. They're week-long seminars on history topics. So a lot available to us. I think I hit these already that are assessments, textbook purchases. I mentioned in the beginning, I think that Avancemos 2 is on board for next year. We're also into year 2 of purchasing the McDougall-Littell program, which you approved last year, the language of literature. So 7th grade English language arts students will be receiving new textbooks this year. And we're able to, we've had our Massachusetts history for some time, but we've been sharing very few books in each of the elementary schools. So with funds available this year, we're able to provide a classroom set for each classroom at the elementary level. And that really brings us up to what's new for 2008, 2009. And I think one of the overarching themes is hands-on, differentiated, active learning for kids. We've rewritten the computer curriculum at the middle school to try to provide more of that, more movie making, more podcasting, more things that kids are already doing in their everyday lives, and less word processing. So we're trying to get them up and moving more. John came before you earlier this year to have his courses approved, so novel writing, probability and statistics, which we have a text for tonight, physical science, Algebra 1 Part 2, public speaking, and the freshman seminar, and we're also offering SAT prep in response to our desire to improve in that area. Our new text recommendations, you have the reports. I have copies of the books here. We can take them in order, if you like, of statistics.
Can I ask you a question first on the
Absolutely.
on the math curriculum?
Yeah.
With Algebra 1 Part 2, so that's a student who takes Algebra 1 Part 1 in the 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still going to require that student to take Algebra 2 and geometry in the sophomore year in order to make sure that they have taken enough of the math courses for MCAS? Because that's what a lot of kids are doing now, right? Can't they take two courses?
They'll follow the sequence as if they were taking Algebra 1 for the first time in the 9th grade.
But if they only take geometry the sophomore year,
Mm-hmm.
is that, when they take the MCAS at the end of their sophomore year, are their Algebra 2 type?
Algebra 2 was added to the SAT.
Oh, okay.
That's where that
Okay.
piece came
All
in.
right.
They are prepared for the MCAS.
Okay.
The sequence is appropriate. What it's done is, in our attempt to have all of our 8th grade students have an algebra experience, we cut the pacing in half. So one might say that some of the students would have been in pre-algebra in 8th grade instead, but they're taking it in 7th grade. And we've just taken the pace of that Algebra 1 and spread it over the 2 years so we can go back and remediate as they're progressing forward, instead of just keeping them in a holding pattern. And they'll get to geometry.
Three math sections in the 8th grade now, is it Algebra 1, half year Algebra 1, and then is there a third?
We do have the capacity to do a transitional math
Yes.
if needed, but we did not need to do it this year.
Okay.
Are there other questions on the body of the curriculum update before we go to the text? Okay. The statistics text, there's two versions of it here for you to take a look at. Well, obviously getting the newer version. Barbara sent over 2 editions just so you would have something to peruse. I might as well send everything down all at the same time. The bio book by Glencoe, and then I have packets of the History Alive. We had sample sets with the student texts in it, but they're using them. And they're enjoying them. So what they had available online is essentially an overview of the program and a sample unit or chapter from the text. The texts are very nice. They're about this size, they're thin, and they're really made for reference tools, not for pleasure reading. So they serve their purpose, so that's the history piece. When we're looking at the statistics program, Barbara Lurvy really took the lead on this and worked with Christine Yates and the members of her department to review what was out there for statistics materials. And I think through some of Christine's past experience, she was familiar with this title. They purchased some or acquired some review copies, used it with students, went through our normal process for adoption, and like you'll hear with the other two reports, so I kind of can just give you a summary overview. The goal with all of these is to really find a text that's, or a program or a tool that's going to reach a multitude of learners and learning styles. And that's really where we put our focus. All of them meet the standards. They get us where we have to go, but they try to do so with an abundance of online materials and support materials for teachers and for students. And when you look at the high school materials, they have to be readable by kids in all of the various levels that we have. So we're looking at something that can be extended for honors level students, but also be reachable by students in the academic level as well. So that's what both of those tools try to do. Yep.
So I'm just looking at the cost of this book, and I know books are expensive, and maybe this only applies to colleges, but I know there's a lot of stuff being done now with online coursework, and I mean, is there any way, Dr. Troughton has talked about trying to do things differently and finding ways to save money. Is there any way we can cut the cost of textbooks with more online? And I know, again, that means every kid has to have a computer at home to get access to it, so it's more difficult in a public school setting. But I look at the cost of this book, $123.75, and I'm like, boy, I could buy a lot of McDonald's Happy Meals with that or something. And that's just.
Why go to school at all? I can just stay home and do it online.
But I'm just wondering if there are any programs.
I don't disagree. We did have a discussion about it, and the feeling with math is that it's very difficult to have an online math program.
Okay.
And I
The
would
one saving grace, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
The one saving grace with this isn't a whole class adoption, it's an elective, much like an
Right.
AP class.
Right, so it's not a huge purchase,
And
right?
when you look at the AP books, when you get into the college level text, the cost does tend to go up quite a
Right.
bit. So we're not doing a broad 250 units at one time purchase. What I found with many of the texts, and I think we get into, some people really like the idea of having the whole thing online, then we continually have learners who are better with something in hand.
Right.
And to gain access to the online materials, you tend to have to buy the text, and the online component comes as an accompaniment to the text, unless we wanted to go with a subscription service. And I've seen them, and this is not my area of expertise, I've seen them mostly in the humanities,
Okay.
where it's a collection of primary sources or research, or where you would go and you would look up on a particular topic. Not so much in the STEM field or.
Okay.
I would have to agree. There is a cost savings to do the online programming, so the tendency is to move in that direction. But the couple of times in my home that we've done the online, it's been kind of difficult for this particular learner who, at least with the social studies programs, likes to take the book and go sit in a chair and not necessarily sit at the computer. And then, you run into the families that have just one computer and multiple kids vying for it all at the same time at the last minute.
I know, I agree with Mrs. Baca. I'm just moving forward, if we could look at ways of cutting costs, and that, not short shrifting the kids, but cutting costs of the materials we're bringing in, that would, I'm sure you look at most of those ideas
Yeah, and I
already.
tend to be an online reader, so I don't mind it, but I know that we always have to have the option available for students to have a text to fit their learning style.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know if you do a survey or where, some students might say, hey, I love doing my work online. You may have 50% of the kids, and if there's a way to save money, maybe that's something going forward, especially mainly at the high school level. So.
The only thing that would concern me with that is, because we only tend to be able to buy for a particular subject,